a boat be doing way up there? He doesn't know it yet, but he may just have stumbled onto the answer, some people think, of a great biblical mystery that has been out there for thousands of years.
Noah. To many, he's a mythical figure, a name from ancient Sunday school stories, a man who built an ark, survived a flood, and vanished into legend. But what if I told you something has just been unearthed? Something real. Something so ancient, so bizarre, and so potentially world-altering that it threatens to collapse the boundary between faith and science, between myth and history. Beneath the rugged terrain of Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey, where many believe the Ark came to rest after the Great Flood, archaeologists claim to have made a discovery that defies logic, and it may change everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. But before we reveal exactly what was found, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. This discovery is only one piece of a much bigger story, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Now, let's dive into the evidence. Genesis 6 tells of a world that became so corrupt, so violent, so spiritually broken, that God chose to wipe it clean with water. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me. Make thee an ark. Genesis chapter 6, verse 13 to 14. The story of Noah is familiar to nearly everyone. But what most people don't realize is that flood legends don't just appear in the Bible. Over 200 cultures around the world, spanning continents and centuries, have passed down versions of the same event. A worldwide flood that wiped out nearly all life, except for a chosen few. Archaeologists, creation researchers, and geologists have long debated whether the flood was local or global, literal or allegorical. But now, new evidence unearthed from the region, long believed to be where Noah's Ark came to rest, is challenging even the skeptics. Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 records a stunning detail. And the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. For centuries, this mountainous region in modern-day Turkey has drawn explorers, researchers, and satellite analysts. It is rugged, remote, and covered with snow most of the year. But to those who believe the Bible is literal, it holds a promise that Noah's Ark may still be there. In the 1980s, a man named Ron Wyatt, an independent archaeologist and Bible believer, began investigating a boat-shaped formation on a mountainside near Ararat. His measurements, soil samples, and radar scans pointed to a man-made structure buried beneath the earth. Exactly 300 cubits long, the same dimensions given in Genesis. Petrified wood, metal rivets, and laminated layers, materials far too advanced for the time, were found embedded deep within the formation. And near this possible ark were a series of mysterious stone markers, but no one could have guessed what lay hidden just below the surface nearby. In 2024, during a renewed excavation near the same region, researchers uncovered something shocking. Buried beneath layers of hardened sediment was an ancient grave site. Within it, a massive human thumb bone, far larger than that of any modern human. Not slightly larger, several times larger. When held beside the thumb of a fully grown man, the difference is undeniable. Whoever this bone belonged to wasn't just tall. He was a giant by today's standards. Accompanying the bone were stone grave markers, eerily similar to those documented decades earlier by Ron Wyatt. Two of them, the largest among the set, were positioned side by side, just as Wyatt claimed in 1977. He believed they marked the burial place of Noah and his wife. Could it really be? According to local sources and preliminary reports, one of the bones was tested and dated to a time consistent with post-flood sediment layers. Researchers also found fossilized remnants of gopher wood, the rare material God instructed Noah to use in building the ark. Nearby were ancient artifacts, tools, pottery shards, and symbols engraved in stone, some resembling pre-Christian crosses. This wasn't just a grave, it was a monument, a buried testimony from a world long destroyed. Why hasn't this story gone viral? Why hasn't the world heard about it? The answer, sadly, is predictable. Mainstream institutions, archaeological, governmental, and scientific, have long resisted any evidence that aligns with a literal biblical worldview. Claims that contradict evolutionary timelines or secular history are often dismissed without investigation. In fact, many believe that key discoveries, including giant skeletons found in North America during the 1800s, were intentionally removed by organizations like the Smithsonian. Documented newspaper articles from that era speak of 8 to 12-foot human skeletons discovered in burial mounds in places like Indiana, Ohio, and the Grand Canyon. But the remains disappeared, and the stories were quietly buried along with them. The idea of ancient giants isn't new. In fact, it's biblical. Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, mighty men which were of old, men of renown. They're called Nephilim, Anakim, Rephaim, and they appear not just in Genesis, but in Numbers, Deuteronomy, and 1 Samuel. Goliath, the Philistine warrior killed by David, was just one example, standing over 9 feet tall. What if Noah lived in a world where this was the norm? A world filled with towering beings, both righteous and wicked, tasked with shaping the world, or destroying it. That would explain the massive grave remains. That would explain the enormous boat. And that would explain why God had to start the human race over again. If Noah existed, and if this grave truly belongs to him, then it demands we re-examine how advanced early humans were. Ron Wyatt's documentation revealed that the ark wasn't built with crude logs, but with laminated timbers and iron fasteners, evidence of advanced shipbuilding techniques. Think about it. This vessel had to withstand violent waves, carry thousands of animals, and survive for months at sea. The engineering required would have surpassed what most believe was possible at that time. And yet, it was done. Because Noah wasn't just a man of faith, he was a man of intellect, strength, and precision. The grave site, the massive bone, the ancient symbols, the petrified wood, these are not coincidences. They are remnants of a world that existed and was judged. They stand as physical evidence of what the Bible has always declared, that humanity had a beginning not in caves and chaos, but in divine design. The flood was not just a story, it was a reset. And Noah? He wasn't a myth. He was a chosen vessel, preserved to rebuild the world after its greatest fall. The Bible isn't a book of fairy tales. It is a record of history, earth-shattering, soul-searching, blood and bone truth. These discoveries, from Mount Ararat to the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah, are not accidents. They're whispers from the past, calling us back to the God who made us, the God who warned us, and the God who is coming again. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. Luke chapter 17, verse 26. We are living in those days again. And so the question is no longer, is it real? The question is, what will you do now that you know?